why do people feel so much disgust and disdain for confident black women, right? But then I started thinking, right? They're like that with all confident women. It's particularly confident black women, and then particularly confident black women, and then like all women who act like that, who are confident in the short. It depends on the landscape, though, right? Because we already know that there are a lot of spaces are not curated to fit, you know, actually a lot of places were curated to keep black people out. And in this society right now, it's not the same. They don't straight up be like, oh, they don't have a side anymore where it says this person is not allowed. No, it's just more discreet, right? Um, whether it's a class thing, a finance thing, a meritocracy thing, or it's just unheard of. Sometimes unheard of is a nice way of saying we're not that fond of you exercising your uh exercising whatever you're exercising right now, whether it's your confidence, your voice, all that stuff. So like I said, unheard of sometimes it can be offensive, but sometimes that just means it's rare. And you might be the first person to do it. Right? So if you hear that's unheard of, that's unheard of. Sometimes you should get offended, but most of the time, that means you're on the right track. You're on the right track to setting up something different, right? Well, I got on this tangent. Yeah, society gets shook up by confident women. Period. And just like there were places that were not designed for black people and people of color, there were also places that weren't designed for women. So when a woman seems too confident in a place that's like a boys' club or it's usually just male oriented. Is that the right word? Mm, yeah, like male oriented type of stuff. Sometimes I could get like uncomfortable, especially if you go in there like self assured and confident. And then also, it seems like society expects a woman to have a certain demeanor about her. Like she can be happy, but not too happy. Unless she has a family. If it's a single, confident, happy woman with no family, society be ready to go off, especially if the woman is black. Like I don't know. Like society has pit traps for all of us, particularly black people and people of color, but particularly black people. Um and then when it comes for men, like I'm thinking about it in a woman's stance, right? Like a single, successful, happy, confident woman drives a lot of people insane, right? But then on the other end, when it comes to men, I think about this too. Where it's like society seems very annoyed and distrustful of black men that are like too quiet, right? Too observant, too quiet. Then all of a sudden you're all up in his face, wondering what he's thinking, wondering what he's doing. Why ain't you out here spazzing like the rest of these motherfuckers, right? It's pitch traps for all of this. And then when it comes to a respectful, honest, confident man, that had like I feel like that's like despite race, right? a happy, honest, confident man who respects people will trigger a lot of people to start calling the motherfucker gay, start telling him he's a simp, start making fun of how he's trying to be the peacemaker and shit. Like, I feel like despite race, that's something that men have to do. Because I feel like society puts so much expectations on everyone, right? As a man in society, you're expected to be strong and a go-getter. And the one who is just conquesting and taking what they want because they're a man, and that's what men do. And men fight, and men are not supposed to be caught up in their emotions and all this shit. So it's an emotionally intelligent man. I feel like most emotionally intelligent men try to stay into the background anyway, because they know that a lot of men have a certain way that they operate through the societal lens. And I feel like I've been watching a lot of these men have started to do the work to uproot the traps of the patriarchy and how they're bonded to it, and how they're enslaved or bonded in bondage to the patriarchy, right? So, like, I always argue this. I don't think the patriarchy is bad, but I do think that misogyny tainted the patriarchy to a degree where it's unsafe for a lot of people. Misogyny and lack of emotional intelligence has severely changed well, I'm not going to say changed, but has severely influenced the patriarchy to a way where it's toxic. Because I feel like the matriarchy and the patriarchy are important, right? So the matriarchy is important for female bonds, strengthening what it means to be a woman and your femininity and sisterhood, right? And the patriarchy is the same for men. Teaching them leadership, teaching them how to be a respectful person in society, and you know, having that sense of a brotherly bond, working as a team. And I feel like when it comes to the matriarchy and the patriarchy, sports could be a benefit. I feel like that's probably the most positive thing about the patriarchy is the bonds and the discipline that men learn through teamwork and being involved in a group of people that's going to look out for them. It doesn't necessarily have to be sports. That could be a community, that could be a school, that could be a group of friends that you find. But it's always important to try to do the best to make sure that you're operating at a level that suits you as a woman and as a man. So I feel like I thought about sports and it could be a positive thing, but there's also the negative drawback. Everybody knows about that part. I'm not here to discuss that. But then when it comes to women and the matriarchy, I feel like same thing applies when it comes to like dance and cheer and any type of club where women can just openly and honestly be themselves. And like I said, there's also drawbacks within those things that I mentioned too. But I feel like when it comes to that sort of stuff, it strengthens also leadership within women, your character development. That's why I mentioned them. They're both really good for character development. And I feel like when the matriarchy the matriarchy is starting to lose its juice like the patriarchy did when it comes to toxic femininity and misandry, which is the hatred of men. right? So toxic femininity and misandry is just a response to misogyny within the patriarchy, right? That's what's happening with feminism, even womanism to a degree. But it's like, there's a lot of different things that society can work on, you know? And all these gender roles, gender identities, race politics, ethnicity, all that stuff is like, they can be just as liberating and set you apart as an individual and bring life just as much as they limit you as an individual and put you in a box depending on where you are in society and who you're around, right? So I feel like society can society can change. We can adapt new ideas. I feel like it's about time we had a shake up in ideas because we live in an age where multicultural families is normal. Having a multicultural family is starting to become normal for so many different people, right? And even if you're not in a multicultural family, you probably know a multicultural family. Or you probably are related to somebody who has multiple cultures, you know? Like, that's just the age that we're living in. And, like, even if it's not the same, like, even if it's not the same race, I mean, even if it's the same race, other cultures, you could be the same race with a different culture, same race with a different ethnicity from somebody. You could be the same ethnicity and a different race from somebody. Same culture, different race, and all these different combinations. And I feel like all these, like, it is important to learn about all these different structures and how society is structured and everything. But I feel like once you have a good understanding of how these things work, you realize how powerful it could be and how limited it can be at the same time, right? It could be powerful in the fact that you know, embrace different cultures, embrace different races, ethnicities, genders, but then at the same time it can be limiting if you're in a environment that only caters to specifics in those categories, a specific race, specific gender, specific ethnicity, specific culture. Like, that could be a detriment. So I feel like I said, yeah, society can change and adapt, right? And I feel like right now we're going through there are so many people that are so bent on the old way because they're scared of losing something, or they're afraid that the changes are going to be too detrimental to them or whatever. But there's nothing wrong with change. Sometimes change is a good thing. Sometimes change can be a good thing, right? And these are kind of topics like I talk about all day, but yeah, I wanted to address that because, like I said, I wanted to talk about the way society pigeonholes women and men. So I mentioned a little bit of all of it, you know? But yeah, that was just me ranting. I'm probably gonna do a bunch of these as I go. But yeah, that's it for now. And I'm off this. Bye. Deuces. Peace.